Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the VIP podcast, otherwise known as the Vertafore Insurance Podcast.
Say it out loud.
I'm trying to make that transition to the VIP. I think it just sounds cool, right?
I think the way you say it sounds real cool.
I wish we had some velvet ropes every time I walk in this room. I think that'd be super
Maybe some
cool.
couches?
Yeah, that would be awesome,
right?
too.
Oh.
So maybe some bottle service?
I'm hoping somebody in Vertafore is listening to this right now.
Right. Some bottle. We pop some champagne before every episode. That would be awesome. I think by the 8th episode, I'd feel really good. So, speaking of feel really good, I feel really good about this one. How's that transition? Because I think I just met the industry's new best friend.
Oh my gosh, she was amazing. I mean, she's like the whole package: smart, successful, even keeled. Just like warm. I mean, it's just like all of it in one package.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I can't believe she's as young as she is, accomplished as much as she has.
100%. So this lady you're about to hear from is 40 under 40. She's a best practices agency, third generation, and she's so humble and so kind. You're going to love this conversation. Let's get out of the way and get into it.
I agree. Let's go.
Grace Peabody, welcome to the VIP program. I'm excited you're here hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's just an honor to be invited. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And we found out, off air a little bit that y'all have a little family connection there. Your sister knows Sid, and you and I met before this, so this should be a lot of fun. And I'm excited to introduce you to our audience. But beforehand, I got a hard-hitting question. I didn't prepare you for this one, but I want to ask you one of these. All right.
All right.
So the question would be, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would your superpower be and why?
Take your time.
Oh, man. I don't know. I think I have to stick to one of the basics, like super strength or something. I mean, I don't really want to go to the point of like being able to like read minds. Well, it'd be really nice to not have to go to the gym. Like if I could just
that is fantastic.
If I could just take that off my list,
awesome.
I never need to worry about it. It's just there.
That just
fit.
That's
really,
efficiency.
I was
efficiency.
going to say, that really sets this episode up.
Yeah.
That really sets this episode up well.
Oh, that is hilarious.
No, I have a 16-month-old at home, and it's always Monday, Tuesdays. I'm really sore from carrying him over the weekend.
Yeah.
So it's always that little reminder that, like, wow, I should probably work a little harder.
That's awesome.
That is hilarious.
Super strength. I'm going to remember that.
Super strength to skip the gym.
Yeah.
Not to fight crime, but to skip the gym.
Skip the gym, baby.
I freaking love it. All righty. Orange Mike Chad, what would be your superhero strength or your superhero power?
Probably invisibility.
Oh.
That's a good one.
What would you do with that?
You can be in all kinds of rooms.
You know how many rooms, like the little bird on the wall?
We may have to go back to creepy Mike Chad after that one.
Sorry, I'm invisible today.
Right. Would it be like a cloak thing, or just like snap your fingers and you're invisible?
No.
Or you just...
I want to have control over it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I got you.
And I would also make it to where I would be fully clothed and invisible.
Yeah, right. You can lose a cape. You don't want to make your superpower attached to an object.
Or someone could steal it.
Or someone could steal it. Like,
yes.
Grace with her super strength.
I'm not Harry Potter with the invisibility cloak. So.
All right, quickly, Sid, what would yours be?
I would probably go with invalitability too, because there are so many rooms you could be.
Y'all are so freaking creepy, bro. All right.
Wait. No. We're turning the tables on you, sir.
I want to be able to, like, what do you call that?
Telekinesis?
No. When you can, like,
Telepathy?
move from places.
Teleport?
I want to be able to teleport. Like, instead of having to get on a plane to fly to Denver, I just want to be able to, like, snap my fingers.
Oh, so you and Grace are like two peas in a pod.
Yeah, efficiency.
Both of you are like...
Hell yeah, efficiency, baby. Yeah, it's so much better.
Get it over with.
And I could save Vertafore money on flights. And I wouldn't have to stay in a hotel because I could just snap my fingers and be home in bed, and my own bed with my kids. It'd be great.
I love it.
Alrighty. Grace, congratulations on this whole 40 under 40 thing.
Thank you.
That's got to mean a lot to you. Can you tell me a little bit about that and like where that came from, what that means to you professionally?
Yeah. So, I think that's just kind of a recognition that I was nominated for in the community. It was pretty fun because I actually know a few of the other people who are on that list. So it was just kind of an honor to be picked. And I think what I really like about that award is that it's the community that votes. So I don't really have a hand in it. I don't really know who picked me or if it was drawn out of a hat, but clearly somebody thought of me as maybe somebody who helped them or was bringing value. So I've kind of looked at my job here at Peabody. It's kind of part of our mission to try and do good, not just for our team, but for our greater community, for our clients. And hopefully I'm doing something right if the community wanted to recognize me as somebody of influence and kind of bringing good things to our community. So
are you
that was what I was really grateful about.
That's awesome. So you involved in like chamber or like, in Optimist clubs and different things like that in town, or, just something like you're just known in the community because of your agency, or all the above?
Yeah, I think all the above. I kind of come from a family. My parents met in the local high school when they were, man, I think like sophomores in high school.
Oh, wow.
So, and then both their families were in town. Both their families had businesses in town. So I'm kind of from this like legacy in the community. So I look at it like it's not just any good work that I've done, but anything that like my family has done or anybody in my network has done. So I'm pretty fortunate to kind of have a long history to learn from. And then I sit on a couple like nonprofit boards. I've been pretty involved, but mostly I love connecting with people. So it's really fun when like I'm able to meet a client and they're having trouble hiring. And then I get to know, I do some work with a local university and they're trying to build their co-op program. And I'm like, oh, hey, if I can introduce you guys, you can grow your co-op program. You can make some stellar hires from people right here in the community. And it's just fun to be a part of that. So I think one of the joys I get in my job is just kind of bringing people together. And it might not be me with the solution, but I might know somebody with a solution. So
Yeah.
I would say that's an actual superpower because she has the legacy influence already, and she can use that to her advantage to be able to pull those people out of the woodwork that she knows to influence and help her community. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it sounds like something.
It might be a superpower, but I still have to go to the gym.
Right. Exactly. Right. So it sounds like something that your parents instilled in you at an early age. It wasn't just something that you just woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to be a superhero in the community.
Yeah, I think it's an example that my family set. Like my parents, my grandpa was in insurance, and everybody always had a story of how how my grandpa, like they were just having a really hard time, like with their family, or they were going through something hard, and how my grandpa would just like show up and drop flowers off at their desk and was like, hey, I thought of you and I wanted to give you these. So I think I had a wonderful example set for me, but I think what made this click in my mind was when I was applying to grad schools, I had to write an essay to apply at Notre Dame. And it was basically like, how are you going to take your education and improve the world? And I really thought about it and I really put a lot of work into this, and I like wrote it. I totally believe it. I stick to it to this day, that I think that like me creating a successful business and like great jobs is truly making the world better. And when I'm able to help, reduce risk for our clients, like I know I'm making this little corner of the world, and as a result, like the greater world better. So it's a lofty goal, but I do believe it.
We are in election year. If you felt like running for president, you might be able to win that nomination.
Yes, please run for president.
No, that was awesome.
I don't know if I meet the age requirement.
There you go.
We'll drop the bar for you.
That's right.
Yeah. We will.
That's hilarious. So, in one of the things that any success I ever had in sales came from networking and came from, who I knew and who knew me. And so many people focus on sales techniques and closing techniques and how to open certain doors, how to do certain things. Would you say it's more, like I mentioned earlier, like more in networking, or would you say, people should focus more on like techniques and all that kind of stuff as well? I'm leading you in this question, but
yeah. No, I mean the techniques, like you have to be good. You have to be proficient at whatever it is you do. So like those sales techniques, and I've gone to like all the different classes, like those are important. Those are valuable. Those are table stakes. Like you just have to perform on those. Just you have to know insurance. But what I teach our team is, and what our team always kind of follows through on is, what problem do they have that you're going to solve for them? You know, what issue do they have? And hopefully it's something like insurance related that we can bring like a clear solution. But if not, then, you know, that's where I say like, oh, wow, they're having trouble hiring. I might know somebody who can help with this. So I think that's kind of what we always go to is like, what's their problem and how are you going to solve it?
Yeah, I love that, serving first instead of, you know, I think that's fantastic. I've just taken over. Giving. I've taken over, Sid. I apologize. I know, you know.
No. I think, so obviously being the glue is really important to you. For those listening, for those who are meeting you for the first time, I think they're looking at you saying, wow, this is somebody that I aspire to be, right? Like this is somebody that has accomplished a lot at a young age. And I think it seems like you're still just getting started. So when you look back over your professional career, what were some of the biggest, toughest challenges for you, and how did you overcome them? And you know, what were some of those really great moments too?
Man, that's a good question. Wow.
Well, the challenges are the ones you learn the most.
Oh
from.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
I think the challenges is it's constantly being in a situation that is like new and you feel unprepared for, where your only really strategy is fake it till you make it. I think that's kind of the biggest skill set that you can develop. So I think some of the bigger challenges have been when I show up at client meetings, and this still happens, and you get so nervous. So you're at a large client meeting. These are people who are the best in their industry. They've been in this industry for their entire careers. They know everything about their business. I mean, they know more about their insurance policies than you do because they've been doing it longer. And I mean, I still get nervous at those meetings. But I think what helps me is knowing that I'll do anything that I can to solve their problem. I'm bringing a team to the table that will do everything they can to make their program better. And that fundamentally we all just care more than the next person who would step up to the plate. So I think I've been able to find confidence in that and through like the hard work that I know our team's willing to do for our clients. And then just kind of like saying, hey, we're gonna let it rock. So I think definitely like some of the scariest moments are when you're doing like a big, you know, presentation to a client, or they call and they have that claim and you're all sitting there at the meeting like walking through what's going to happen.
Yeah. Would you say
I actually want to kind of
go ahead
to what you said before that question is for her, I have a feeling she gets underestimated a lot.
Do you feel like you get underestimated when you walk into rooms?
I mean, probably. I mean, but I'm kind of a self-deprecating person. So sometimes if somebody underestimates me, it's like, oh, wow, what an advantage. I can try and prove them wrong. But I mean, that happens all the time where, you know, like I'll go to meetings and I'll bring my husband, and my husband's got a great and wonderful career that he's doing. He's more in the trailer industry. But, you know, everybody looks at my husband as the one who like won us this award, or we're there for him. And he's like, oh, no, I'm here with her. And you can talk to any like, you know, it's a lot of like women in the industry or even young people that, you know, you kind of break the mold. You expect the other person to be doing it. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it happens, but I think there's an advantage there because, you know, if they set a lower bar for me, it just means I can jump further over it.
Yep. I love that. Would you say your confidence has built slowly over time, or were there moments where you felt like you really leveled up? And jumped a few steps, right?
And jumped a few steps?
Because you have a lot of confidence, and in your and I think part of that comes from like you seem to have a lot of self-awareness around your capacity and your capability, which is like where confidence starts, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't really know where your capacity and capability is, either you overestimate it and then you're ego-driven, or you underestimate it and then you get your pushover. But you're kind of like walking that line. So I'm curious how that confidence grew over your career.
Yeah. I think confidence comes from doing something that's hard. And then you did it and it went well and you're out on the other side. And I feel like there's a whole lot of different examples of that, of if you're willing to like continue putting yourself out there, where you kind of build that confidence. I can say like when I first started, so kind of a little bit of background on me is I kind of came into the industry. I did leave for a short time. and worked in Chicago. And then I went to Notre Dame for the accelerated MBA program. And then I came back. So at 27 years old, I kind of came back to my small town in Benton. Whew. And, it was a little lonely. I mean, there's not many people my age, like in this town, let alone in this industry. We were a much smaller team at the time. I didn't have much in common. Like most everybody's like married and their kids are out of high school, and I'm single and living in Fenton. So I had a couple friends ish that I kind of knew who had businesses of their own, and kind of a lot of it was just kind of, I wanted to build a network, but I also wanted to like meet people and like kind of build a network in the community. So I reached out to a few women who are entrepreneurs and kind of own their business or work at some entrepreneurial companies, and invited them to a hunt club that I was a member of. And we just kind of did like a little like class where they taught you how to shoot guns. It was very safe. And then we had lunch and wine, and it was really fun. And we had a wonderful time. A lot of these women have businesses much bigger than ours, especially at the time. And since then, I've formed these like really great friendships out of it. We get together pretty frequently and just to do fun things together. So I think that experience helped because I put myself out there. I made some really good friends, and especially learning like, hey, our clients they're people. I mean, no matter how big of a person, company you go and call on, or, I've spoken to, the board of directors at very large organizations. And at the end of the day, we're all just people with kind of everyday problems. So I think that helped.
So you've transitioned a little bit over your career from more of the sales and the networking to more of an operational role. And so especially at a young age, to know what that's been like for you, especially in a family agency and growing the business and, teaching others and changing. Because I'm sure, because Sid's third generation, I'm second generation. And sometimes when, the next generation comes in, they want to make a few changes. They want to do things a little differently than the way Dad and Mom did it. Was there any of that with you? And what did that look like? Did you have that conversation with Dad or Mom?
Yeah, definitely. So I was very aware that some people come in and you always have ideas to change.
Yeah.
And I definitely had those, but I tried to be quite respectful of everybody who was there doing things a certain way. They did it that way for a reason, and it worked for them. So at the time, I felt like I was being respectful of trying not to change everything too quickly and being respectful of what everybody was doing. But yeah, I mean, I think just the fact that we were growing like forced us to change. So I think that was a good thing of growth creates new problems, which require new solutions. So I was naturally able to make changes to the organization. But rather than me deciding what they were, I let the problems kind of speak for themselves. And then, I attack those problems with new solutions. I can say, because now I've had 3 younger sisters come into the business, and they come in and with their ideas, and they're looking at me of, why are you doing it this way? You should do it differently. And it makes me realize, man, I thought I was being super polite, but I'm sure I was just as aggressive about the changes I would make.
That's got to be interesting for you, the next generation, your younger sisters coming in wanting to change things you've done. What is that like for you?
I think it's a really good thing because like the fresh perspective is inevitably really good. And I think that like there's no clear solution for any problems. It's like, oh, here we're going to try and do this, but there's always a little like bandages and gum and duct tape on the solution. Like, oh yeah, no, we ran into XYZ problem and this is what we did because it's what works. So it's great because they will completely call out those solutions. If it's not like the best solution, you'll get called out. I think the biggest struggle is how long change takes. That, oh, hey, I know this is a great idea, but it's probably going to take like 18 months to make this happen. And that slow pace is always really tough when new people try to bring changes to the table.
What would be a good example of what you just described, where you looked at the business and said, almost like you have foresight and being able to say, ooh, that's not working, but I'm going to give the business enough rope that it kind of, this is maybe an intense way of saying this, so forgive me, but it kind of hangs itself a little bit, right? You give the business enough rope that you don't come in and say, fire, the sky is falling, like everybody stop, we gotta pivot, right? You just you just give it enough rope, and then you're there to catch it and steer or guide that transition into the new change. What would be a good example of that?
Yeah. I can say I think what I'm dealing with right now, that like kind of the issue that's to my mind is I'm having to, I think, create, it used to be we could have like one person, like one account manager, one producer that kind of does everything on an account. Now we're at a point where we have a very large team and I need our team to delegate more. So, you know, my account managers, rather than doing every piece of what the customer needs on a renewal, I think that what we need is for them to delegate to somebody who's more of an entry level position, because this is an opportunity for them to learn and build their career in kind of a low risk environment. And then they can focus on more of like the customer forward, like proactive type service. And there's some resistance to that because it's different than how it used to be. You used to be able to handle the entire thing on your own. But as we grow, I think this is what we need to do in order to service our clients. So, I mean, I don't have a clear solution because it's something we're working through, but I can kind of see the vision of where it is we're trying to go. I can understand all the reasons why people are resistant to it. And I think we're just kind of slowly, I think having the destination in mind, we're going to slowly get there, and being able to communicate with people over time is the biggest thing, of like the clear vision of where you're going, communicate it to the team. And then when problems arise, solve those problems to get us closer to the vision of where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, I would love to. I got to earn my paycheck on this one and ask about, you know, the role that technology plays in some of these solutions you're finding, and in your agency. Did your mom and dad, or even your grandfather, did they have any kind of a tech focus prior to you, or have you brought some of that in, or if you could kind of talk to me a little bit about where tech plays a role in your agency?
Yeah. So this business was restarted. So my grandpa was in the industry and so was my dad, but we started this agency in 2013. So
Okay.
at the time it was like about 3 people. In 2013, we bought a tiny book of business. It was about $100,000 in revenue of personal lines business. And I actually remember before we had closed on that, we bought our AMS license. And anybody who knows the Vertafore platform, I mean, that's not a cheap product. It's not buying Spotify account. So we actually, another company had dropped their license and they were supposed to be onboarded. So it was available. So we bought it before we ever really had an agency. So the good thing about being founded in 2013 was that we don't really have legacy systems. We were able to start ahead of the crowd. There's only ever been laptops. We've only ever been cloud-based. There's a lot of changes that need to happen over time. Like I think Dropbox was the big thing then for file sharing. Now it's Microsoft Office 365 suite. So we definitely had an advantage. But that's where, like my dad was very forward thinking on technology. I've really taken it and ran with it. And then even like each of my sisters, the pace of change in the tech world is so fast that you really need to be paying attention to it all the time because it changes so quickly.
You're an incredible first-time guest with us because you're leading me right to the next question of, you know, being recognized as a best practices agency. What are some of those things that you've learned? And there's so many questions I could ask, like a 7-part question. But if you just want to give me a broad answer, like, that, first of all, the genesis of that, and like, what has that meant for the agency? And what do you think you guys did to be recognized as that best practices agency, first of all? And then if you want to get into some of the tech you've learned, if you can.
Yeah. So, when we first started in 2013, we had read all the business books. I mean, a lot of Patrick Lencioni was kind of what we were started on. And then also the Harvard Business Review article that talked about the 3 things that make a business successful. Better before cheaper, revenue before cost, and there are no other rules.
Nice.
We really were totally focused on that of when we were about to make a decision. It's, hey, is this better? And we're going to focus on that before worrying about the cost, and then worry about revenue before anything else. So that really set the focus for what we were trying to achieve as an agency. It was years later that we kind of became aware of the Reagan Best Practices study, and we started participating in that. And I think what really helped is that we were clearly trying to be a growth-oriented agency. We already had the vision set for what we were trying to do. So right from the start, we were considered a best practice agency. We've participated every year and have been considered a best practice agency since then. You can't, I think an important strategy is you got to know it. I mean, you got to know your numbers. I think the same thing I said earlier of there's just table stakes of being able to know like what, how big of a book of business you should be able to expect somebody to handle, what a good finance person looks like versus poor accounting practices. You just got to know that stuff. And then whenever we deviate from best practice, I know why. And most of the time it's because we're on a strategy of growth and we're going to pay attention to that before we start worrying about the bottom line. That's definitely important and it matters, but is this going to grow and make our business better is always the focus.
Okay, wait.
You got Sid leaning in. You got Sid leaning in.
So we've done enough of these that if I like tilt my pinky finger slightly to the left, he can like read my mind. Okay, so you said know your numbers.
Yeah.
Immediately when you said that, I thought about an agency owner that I talked to, small agency. This was a couple years ago. They were, I think, 4 or 5 people at the time, 2 or 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to have them on the podcast because they were doing some interesting things. But when I did the pre-interview, I got a little nervous having them on because they had no handle on what their numbers were. Like when I started digging in and asking some deeper questions, it was like they were just working off of the checks that were coming in every month. That was it, which was crazy to me. Like that would stress me out. So then fast forward, I've talked to more and more agencies because I'm thinking, is this a unique issue with this agency or is this something that I see as a trend? And I don't think it's quite that excessive with most agencies, but there's definitely a pattern of fudging the numbers, like guesstimating the numbers, because it is so difficult to get to a certain accuracy level. Mm-hmm. How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't think that's a standout, the agency that you came across. I have come across a lot of others like that. And it makes sense because ultimately all insurance agencies are sales organizations. Mm-hmm. And somebody with a really strong skill set in sales doesn't always lean towards a strong skill set in like business finance operations. And really writing down your numbers and knowing them all.
Yes.
So how our organization I think is good at that is kind of my background is when I finished at business school at Notre Dame, I became an account manager. Probably the only person that ever graduated with their MBA to become a commercial lines account manager.
I love that. That's awesome.
Well, it's the position that we really needed at the time. We couldn't hire anybody, so that's kind of what I became. And then our finance person retired, our bookkeeper. So then I absorbed that role, and later our operations person retired, and I absorbed that role. Mm-hmm. And I think I really loved finance because there was a meeting where, we kind of get together and do these leadership meetings with, kind of the key people in our office. And what she said was that she wanted anybody other than me to take over her role because she didn't think I would do a very good job.
The gauntlet is thrown down. You're like, okay, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
But like, I love it. It was very clear communication. I knew exactly where I stood.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah.
And and I do get pulled in a lot of directions. I think being a Peabody, I mean, a problem could pop up and I zoom off to that. So I also do understand where she was coming from, but I was so determined to prove her wrong. And like, I wanted her to be like, I wanted to win her over. Mm-hmm. So I really threw myself into that accounting role. And, once you become good at something, you enjoy it and you love it. So I do love that aspect of our business. And, it brings me some level of joy to, I've done that work. So I respect it a lot. So I think that's how I personally have gotten very strong at knowing our numbers. But also is coming from, there's no set of directions for being a business owner. Sometimes you wish there was a playbook or anything, and that's where I'm very grateful to the best practice study because it is that in a way. Granted, it's a summary of what the nation follows, but I'm able to say like, hey, this is what a book of business should look like for a personalized account manager. And I'm able to have a loose template of like, if somebody's feeling overwhelmed, I can kind of compare and know, wow, you should be overwhelmed. You're doing a lot of work here. Or else I know, you shouldn't be overwhelmed. Like there must be some processes that you're not utilizing, and I can apply some coaching techniques. So when it comes to knowing your numbers, it's very comforting to not be driving blind. You're able to have some sort of metrics to know if you're on track or off track.
So
go ahead.
A couple of things. One, shout out to account managers across the world because they make the world go round. They make agencies work. Like anybody that underestimates that role is ridiculous. Shout out to that. So I love that you started there from your MBA. I think that's awesome. Number two, shout out to Reagan, for doing that, because if you're listening right and you're not participating in that, if you're not paying attention to that or buying that study or purchasing that study, whatever, you should. And number three, I think that we live in a world this way, but especially in the insurance industry. I'm 22 years in. It's a herd mentality of everyone wants to follow the herd and wants to do what everyone else is doing. So again, going back to the Reagan study, but you guys seem like you want to take it that step further of like what the industry's doing, but we want to go a little bit further than that. And would you say that's something you guys do intentionally?
I wouldn't say I chase the industry, but we definitely chase our clients. I mean, there are some extremely entrepreneurial businesses and business owners that we've had the chance to meet and get to know, and we watch the risks they take in their business and the team they hired around them and the offices they built and the jobs they bring this community. And I look at it like how do I make sure our organization is worthy and capable and it continues to be the best choice for these customers. And it's like we can't afford to get lazy because our customers aren't. They're doing more each day. I need to make sure that we are doing even more so we continue to deserve their partnership.
So it's marrying that, chasing your customer with what best practices are within the industry.
Yeah. I look at how great like our customers are doing in their business segments, and I need to deliver on being just as good in ours.
I love that.
Really quick before we wrap up, because I know we only have 2 minutes left. So just rewinding for a sec, you mentioned the agency was founded in 2013, so it's only 11 years old.
Yep. We've got about
So 11 years old, 35 people, $60 million in premium.
Yeah, and that's all organic growth. I mean,
it's awesome.
Insane.
Yeah, incredible.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a lot of growth. It's a lot of fun. I forget until I start to like look at the big picture. There's days where I'm like overwhelmed, and then you're like, oh, it's justified. And I know a lot of our teams felt that way too.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Okay, I'm going to slide in one last question before I wrap up. And this could be a question that we talk about for 30 more minutes, but I'm going to put a challenge on you to answer this quickly, or efficiently. But as far as you brought up hiring, you brought up other people, and you brought up some of those things. I know you guys, you focus on something being in your role. What is some advice or what are some things you can give, or what are you guys doing, however you want to answer that, within best practices around hiring and bringing in good talent? As you mentioned earlier, there's not a whole lot of young, talent in your area, and a lot of people face that same challenge, or even, talent in the industry. Just talk to me a little bit about that. I don't mean young, like it has to be young, but you know what I mean, talent in that industry.
Yeah. I think that it's important to have a process. I mean, I have a clear hiring process that I follow. I have a full sales pipeline that I keep of people I'm recruiting, I am reaching out to. They're in my pipeline. I have the same process that any producer would follow for as far as hiring. And then we have like a clear set of assessments that we use and an interview process where I bring in a few people. So, I think that's, again, like just the table stakes. You got to be good and you got to have a process. You should be using some sort of like testing or analysis, and you should have some base criteria that you're looking for. And then after that, like once somebody meets those and we kind of go through that, it should be somebody I enjoy being with, I mean, I want to be able to jump in the car and be able to go visit a customer and really enjoy my time in the car with them, and somebody that I'd be very proud to introduce to any one of our clients, regardless of how much experience they have, because, if somebody's enthusiastic and they learn quickly and they'll put themselves out there, they're going to be great.
That's awesome. I do love that you brought up the pipeline side of it, because I think a lot of people look to hire after, like when they have the need, instead of you have a pipeline already full. So when the need arises, you're ready to start interviewing or looking for someone.
Yeah, I think that was the result of you. Like we've had a lot of very fast-paced growth, and I don't like looking at my team and seeing them kind of buried or overwhelmed. So I had kind of a very good hiring process. I think kind of maybe better than average. And then once we got into COVID, I think we saw the whole industry got short-staffed. It got very aggressive, and kind of that market. Water was bloody when it came to hiring. Wow. Yeah, everybody was recruiting, and there was a shortage of insurance agents at that time. Mm-hmm. So, I think we just kind of fine-tuned our process through that.
Man, I could have this conversation for another 30 minutes. I really appreciate you coming on and joining and hanging out with us. And you'll probably hear from us again, maybe take you up on your skiing offer to come in again and hang out, or we may call you for a webinar. But I appreciate everything you're doing. You want to close us out there, Sid?
I honestly, I'm just shocked, and I can't believe we haven't met before.
Right.
You're amazing. And I appreciate you, sharing behind the curtain, I would say. It was a great conversation, and we wish you the best. I think in another 11 years, you guys are going to be, who knows? You could be one of the top 100 brokers, top 10 brokers even.
I'm just happy that I met a superhero today. So
that's right.
Listen, for real.
Again, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Man, what a great episode.
Dude, that was fire. Just, it made me think,
Yeah, you always like those. I always like the ones that give me heartburn, the spicy episodes.
The spicy ones?
You do have to get your Rolaids out of it.
I do, because we got some great guests that we had to share their opinions. We had to get that out there.
Well, and listen, that's not the last great guest we're going to have. We got so many more lined up this season.
You got to come back every single time. And how do you do that? How do they do that? How do they
go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, or make sure that you follow us on your favorite podcast channel?
And I'm watching the numbers, so I'll know if you hit subscribe or not. So
he stalks.
I do. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, or it's going to hurt my feelings. You don't want to do that now. So come back next week, hang out with us. We got another amazing guest. See you on the next one.